What's up guys, Brunsnick's back, and we're back in the pro shop for another Restoring Factory Finished episode, this time with the Hammer Dark Web Hybrid. So this ball is a little bit duller out of box, a little fewer steps than the last episode with the Madness. So we're going to get right into it and show you the steps it takes to bring this ball back to factory finish. Let's take a look. Alright, so we have our Dark Web here, bowled quite a few games on it. As you can see, it's a little lane shined, not really tracked out very much. You got a few minor issues here, but nothing crazy. Just a lot of, grime and junk that you normally get from bowling. So first thing we always do when we get this ball resurfaced is you want to take out the grips. In this case, I only have half the work. So I always want to take out your grip and get this thing ready for resurface. That's all good. And I'm not worried about the tape. You know, tape will dry out. But got the grip out. Next step is to get it on the hose and start going through the steps. All right, we got the hose machine. That's how we're going to resurface the ball. First, we got to go through the steps. The steps on a Dark Web Hybrid are 500, 1,000, with 2,000 on top. That's it. 3 steps today. That's all we're doing. So I got some 500s from this previous ball I just did, just to show that we don't need to use fresh pads every time. These pads last quite a long time. I think the factory gets about 28 to 30 of these. The first step is 500 grit. This is going to be the longest step that we do. Now granted, my ball just lane shined a little bit. There was no real tracking involved. You know, there's not any kind of damage or anything like that. So for the sake of this video, we're gonna go 2 minutes on the first step. Now it's just mesmerizing watching the hose machine do its thing. Nice uniform feel and finish every single time. Now I get questions with people at home that are doing their own resurfacing, but they have ball spinners. Can this be done the same way? And the answer is yes. It can be done on a ball spinner. You have to pay attention more to turning the ball, you know, using the different hemispheres, top, bottom, side, side, and then quarters. So, you know, if you want to do a true resurface, you want it nice and even, you know, you're probably going to want to do at least 4 sides of the ball, with a few more in between if you really want to get technical about it. You know, about that minor technical issue on the camera. But we're finishing up the step at the 500. So like I was saying, if you're going to do it on a spinner, it is perfectly possible to get it back to box surface. You know, doing it by hand without a spinner, I would say no. You're not going to be able to get a nice surface on the ball all the way through, being uniform. And also, you're going to tire yourself out really quick. So, if you don't have a spinner, and if you don't have a hose machine at home, which most don't, take the ball into your local pro shop to have this done. So you might notice that over time, your dull ball isn't quite hooking as much and performing as well as when you first got it. It's easy to forget about how many times we go bowling and how many games we put on during practice, you know, who counts for really, you know. But getting it back to box surface, getting the grips changed, and getting the oil out of the ball all at the same time is a great idea, because you're going to prolong the life of your ball. You're going to get the best fit and feel because you're changing your inserts, and you're going to get the best performance. All right, so the 500s are done. We're going to switch it over to 1,000 grit. Now we're going to do this next step for only 1 minute instead of 2. Good, good. Set this back up there. So 1 minute. Get some more water on there. All right, so now we do this for 1 minute. Now the reason we do it for less time, and why the first one's so important, is because the 500 is going to create the most grit and get the ball resurfaced, get all the minor imperfections out, and also get all the grime off. 1,000 grit isn't going to cut as deep as the 500 grit, so it's not going to get as deep into the peaks and valleys. It's going to create new peaks and valleys off of the top of the ridges that the 500 created. Now, if we wanted to make this even more aggressive with this ball, say, you want this ball to hook a little bit earlier, you would skip the 1000 grit entirely. You'd go from 500 and finish out with 2000. So you can still keep it at quote-unquote the same surface, but it's not the same surface because you're skipping a grit. When you're skipping a grit, you create a larger, more solid footprint. You're creating the deeper peaks and valleys with the 500 and a shallower one with the 2000. So you're going to be dull and aggressive. But like I said, it just depends what you want. No surface is one size fits all. That's all I got to say. Everything is tunable. If you don't like factory surface, say you didn't like the ball out of the box, change the surface. But I'd always recommend changing the surface that you can repeat. So say you bowl it with it for a couple games and then you just hit it with a 2000 pad. Well, if you just hit it with a 2000 pad the next time, depending on how long it's been, it might not give you the same results. So it's always best to go back, start with a duller underlying grit, like 500, and work your way back up to the finishing step. All right, this is the final step. We're only going to do 30 seconds on this last one, so we're going to count it off, and then we're going to go from there. All right, 30 seconds. The last step is mostly just a finishing step. We're not really taking this one too long. The longer we put this at this grit, the more it's going to get closer to the 2000 grit. When we go 500, 1000, 2000, the grit is going to be somewhere in between 1000 and 2000. Probably somewhere around 1300, 1400 if I were to scan it. All right, that is 30 seconds there. We're going to stop that. Now we're going to get this on the spinner for the last step, which is just to clean it off. Nothing special, but we'll see it right here in a second. All right, this is the final step just to get this back to box. We're just going to clean this off. Obviously, a lot of junk in the finger holes we're going to want to get out. So I just use a paper towel, put it on the spinner. It's always good to have your apron on because this thing does tend to shoot some stuff out. Oh, look at that. Now we're starting to look like box surface. So that's the beauty of it. Get it back to box surface. Dark web hybrid, even though it is a hybrid, it has a little bit of pearl in it. Still a dull pearl. This is for medium to heavy oil. Now you can get down top, clean her up. And while we're up here, we're just going to clean out the finger and the thumb. Okay, so that's all the steps to restoring factory finish on a Hammer Dark Web Hybrid. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. If you'd like to see another ball in particular, we'll be doing a bunch of these in series. And put them in the comments. Please subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.